Alright, hello! It is Speedy here. And I'm playing Omen Exitio, or Exitio? How do you pronounce that? Exitio? Omen Exitio Hunger. I'll go with that. I've never really heard much about this game. I saw it on... Should be fine. I saw it on Steam. Looked like something I'd like. And it looked like it didn't have AI shit in it. It should not be difficult. Alright. New game. New York, 12th of February 1927. Prologue. The case of the stolen cars. Continue. The overcast afternoon sky mirrors the hue of cigarette smoke, evoking a sweet craving for nicotine sharp enough to make your throat prickle. In the foreground, the silhouette of a weathered, seemingly ancient wooden house looms before the windshield, completing the cheerful little picture of a dismal punch clock die. Nothing out of the ordinary for Riker Avenue, a place forgotten by God, lined with bare trees and overrun with wild animals. The people who live here usually hide their shady business, and the scrapyard you're investigating is no exception. The editor-in-chief is unusually interested in this stolen car racket, unlike you. You carefully park your car at a discreet distance from the weathered house. According to your source in the police department, there shouldn't be anyone there until Monday, but you can never be too careful. You reach to your right to grab the folder containing your investigation notes, but your hand slips on the slick cardboard surface, sending its entire contents spilling under the seat. You curse your clumsiness with a string of worn-out expletives, and as you collect the fallen papers from the floor mat, you come across a small black booklet that had been buried among the pages of solved cases. It's a diary that you had kept until just a few months ago, and that you had filled with disjointed thoughts and philosophical contemplations inspired by a few too many drinks. An unsuccessful project, considering the undignified end you consigned it to, abandoned and buried under the seat, as if it had never existed. Without thinking much about it, you start flipping through the notebook, your gaze far off, letting the memories of the last few years blur your vision. Continue. I see. Saturday, 15th of May 1920, so 7 years ago. The first image you see is that of a baby in swaddling clothes, cradled tenderly by a woman in bed. Your heart constricts at the memory, imprinted on your mind as if you had it right before your eyes. The most beautiful day of your life, or rather, of your lives. You and Margaret, who not long before had been worrying about the complications that the midwife feared during the pregnancy, could finally hold the fruit of your love in your arms. Young and unmarried, lacking the support of either of your parents, you decided to keep the child, which to you now seemed like the most beautiful, meaningful thing in the entire universe. And because the first daisies were sprouting outside, you decided to call her Daisy. The sketch depicts the small door of the apartment just below the one you once shared with Margaret, tucked away in a forgotten alley near the old cemetery in Boston. You used to call it your workshop. Painting was your passion, but it hardly filled your coffers. Your few earnings came from occasional clients and the odd jobs that Margaret would take on. One day, a distinguished-looking gentleman showed up at your doorstep. You'd assumed he was lost, but he turned out to be an art critic from New York. His name was Edward Ferber. He was captivated by your precise and realistic portrayal of the nature of things infused with the artist's feelings, so he invited you to join the Boston Art Club. That sounds like a lot of words to say very little, but I'm not an art critic, so... Oh, exhibit paintings of landscapes or exhibit paintings of people? Is this exhibit as in the verb? Am I making a choice of what I would have picked to show off? I like landscapes as a person more than I like art and photos of landscapes more than I like art and photos of people. So let's go with landscapes. The small exhibition drew many people to see your paintings. You were excited and found it hard to speak, but your new friend stepped in to curate your work for you, a glass of golden bourbon in his hand. You smile thinking about the little appreciation you received from some of them. Elliot Ferber, Edward's younger brother, had remarked that they were so realistic they were boring, a colourful reproduction of what can already be found in any Steichen photograph. Is that a compliment? Most people trusted the older brother's judgment, however, and you began to receive a few commissions. Clients would come in here and there over the months, asking for paintings, so you were able to keep your family living comfortably for the next few years. Oh, this is already 1922. I didn't notice the date changing. I guess I could go back, but... Yeah, Tuesday, 24 June, 1924. So 2 years later. The sketch on the tear-stained, wavy paper depicts the three of you in a moment of fleeting happiness. A moment that was unceremoniously snatched away by the capricious hand of fate. No one knows exactly why it happened. The doctor said he had warned you of the possibility, but as parents, you had preferred to ignore it. No, actually it was just you who chose to look away. You had vehemently refused to confront the prospect of losing Daisy, and you had behaved as if nothing was wrong. Did your willful ignorance make things worse? You never let her want for anything, and she always seemed so blissful. Margaret didn't shed a single tear at the funeral, remaining impassive as she stood before the tiny coffin being lowered into the ground, observed by a handful of mourners. You held her close, but she showed no reaction. That was the moment you foresaw the end of everything. The same year, a few months later, Sunday, the 2nd of November, 1924. In the following months, Margaret spiraled into the abyss of melancholy, her faith taking a macabre turn as she recited the rosary for Daisy's soul, her voice echoing through your home and into your study. Your marital bond never recovered, and with each passing day, you drifted further apart. You catch sight of a small wooden rosary peering out from among the pages. Your eyes still see the darkness of the bedroom. Your nostrils recall the acrid smell that had assailed you upon entering, and your ears echo with an anguished scream, as if your throat were releasing it once again, when you realize that your gun and an aging relic from your military service was absent from the desk drawer. It was already too late. She had decided to join your little girl. Meanwhile, you remained there, weeping for both of them. That's fucked up. Monday, the 24th of November, 1924, still the same day. One of the sketches portrays a portly, elderly man with a bushy beard. handing you a basket containing a one-eyed black cat. You had just settled into your apartment in New York. He lived next door, but was relocating to a place where he could no longer accommodate his feline companion. He asked if you would be willing to take care of him, telling you the cat would quickly bond with anyone who fed him. You were uncertain how much time your new career as a journalist would demand, courtesy of Ferber. You didn't know how long you'd stay, yet faced with that endearing little face, you gave in. And so, following the man's suggestion, you gave your unexpected new friend a name. Okay, I have 3 options. Menes, like the first pharaoh who united Egypt. Pluto, like the god of the dead in classical mythology. Or Salem, like the city of witches your family hails from. These are all really cool names. And I like that there's like a reason for them. There's no silly option, but I guess that's not the game for this. I kind of like Menes. It's probably the name that I know the least about. Like Salem, the Salem Trials. Pluto. I mean, there's a dwarf planet called Pluto, but it's named obviously after the god. It's Roman, right? A Roman god rather than the Greek. The Greeks had a different name for him. Isn't it just Pluto / Hades? I think it is. Like God of Dead, if it's... yeah, has to be. But Menes, I don't know. So let's go with Menes. Menes? Menes. I'll go Menes. Saturday, 11th of July, 1925. The portrait of Colin is in front of you. He was the first friend you made in New York. At the time, you were conducting research for an article on a group of smugglers who were supposed to sell a batch of gin to be sent to Chicago. You knew the police were set to intervene, and you went to the designated spot, hiding and ready to observe the situation. But when the authorities arrived, chaos erupted. One of the criminals unleashed a hail of machine gun fire, forcing the police to withdraw while his partner secured the cargo. An officer lay wounded on the ground, struck by a bullet, and the aggressor holding him at gunpoint, ordering his colleagues not to play any tricks. But you were right there, ready to act. Oh, okay, so now I get to make a decision about myself. How quick I am to take aggressive action. I think I want to play someone who is a bit more how to say this, not so easily willing to just throw themselves into the line of fire. So I think you made noise to draw attention. You slammed your fist against the metal container you'd taken cover behind. Startled by the noise, the gunman turned and opened fire in your direction. In the chaos, one of the bullets found your leg. More shots rang out in the distance, but the pain came fast and blinding, and you lost consciousness. When you came to, you found yourself in a hospital bed, and the man you'd risked your life for was in the one next to you. He introduced himself as Detective Colin Wright, and you greeted him with a warm smile and introduced yourself. During the days of recovery, the two of you talked a lot, and you found something rare in the sprawl of the city, a real friend. But in the end, the article went to someone else. You close both your eyes and the journal, dispelling the past with a deep sigh. Placing the journal back in its designated spot, you focus on the real reason for your visit to Riker Avenue. Gazing out the window at the relentless, frigid drizzle drenching the ground, you exhale in frustration, regretting having forgotten an umbrella. And Yet the weather isn't all that different from Boston's. You should be used to it by now. You return your attention to the papers in your folder, double-checking your location and taking a moment to review anything that might prove useful. John Mahoney is a textbook lowlife. A man who modifies stolen cars and then sells them to the highest bidder. A dull, moderately dangerous story. The worst combination. Stepping out of the car, you find yourself in a spectral expanse, strewn with the remains of mangled vehicles. The forest yields to a peculiar open-air junkyard, in the center of which stands a big house, reigning as the unrivaled monarch of all the wreckage. Its stark contrast against the desolate sky is almost jarring to the eye, while the wind carries the melancholic creaking of decaying timber, a poignant symphony that appears to challenge both the weather and the relentless march of time. I get to do voices, I guess. Is this me? This is me, right? Well, this is me, so it should be my voice. Very picturesque. You offer the remark with a touch of sarcasm. Almost under your breath, a defense against the urge to light up a cigarette and quell your restlessness. In contrast to the bustling metropolis of Manhattan, this place feels utterly alien. It seems a world away from civilization, yet you know that a relatively short walk could take you to the coast, with its harbours and ships. As you scour the area, you cross the scrapyard and come to one side of the house. Your vigilant eyes sweep from side to side, hoping to uncover something that could bring your investigation closer to its end. Ooh, what is this? Find the evidence to solve the stolen car case. So it's this kind of game. Let's see, well, there's this. What the fuck? What's a doll doing impaled on a branch? I didn't think Mahoney had any kids. We get to... okay. Wait, hold on. So what's this? There's been... this thing has been on the side here all this time. Clues. Characters. Margaret Blanchard. This is my... was my wife. Right? Yeah. Daisy Pickman. My beloved daughter. Was my beloved daughter. John Mahoney. Yes, he's the guy we're investigating. Edward Ferber, sort of my... yeah, my editor-in-chief. Guy who kind of got me my jobs. And Colin Wright, who is my help. And locations, which is just this, collectibles. Okay, cool. Alright. It looks like someone has been burning trash here. I can't reach the bottom of the barrel. If only I could... well! I've had my fair share of exercise for today. Now let's see what we have here. Burnt fabric. Looks like clothes. Did they burn them to keep warm? No, it's winter, but it's not that cold. There must be something underneath. Okay, what if I click it again? Do I get the same stuff? Digging through the charred garbage really raises expectations for what a wonderful day this is turning out to be. Okay, it disappears, so I have to be somewhat quick. What's this? Why is this stone? Well, it's a big stone. I don't think it stands much of a chance against a rifle, but it's certainly better than my bare knuckles. But I get to take that as a weapon? I get to take it as a weapon, a large stone. Very hard and very heavy. The bolt on the door is completely devoured by rust. I've got to find out what they are hiding inside. Okay, so... this makes a... probably... I'm not sure whether I could do that. This makes a lot of noise. And we're trying to be sort of sneaky. Hold on. I can just revisit this, right? Hold on. Never mind. Yes, I can revisit this. Let's see if there's if I can find a key in this screen. And if I can't, I should probably try to use the stone instead. Okay. What else? I could just swipe, but I should probably actually... A can of black paint. Well, I wouldn't repaint the living room walls with it. My car. A can of black paint, a black Chrysler. It's not like they went to too much trouble. Okay, I never thought I was sophisticated enough for a Chrysler. I guess we are just... Yep, we're using the stone. Use the large stone. It takes just the right blow. Perfect. Definitely put to better use here than on Mahoney's head. And less illegal. Brilliant. I would say these plates aren't exactly here for collecting. I have what I need to close this damn case. Well, that's easy. Case closed, game over. Let's go home, everyone. While we're here, we should check what else is here. It's not as dusty as all the other junk around here. It's probably been used recently. I could have used that outside. If I... Wait, can I? No, I can't. It should have a thing where I can just click it away if it's covering something else. Did it look like I could move that? No, I think it was just the box that I could use rather than a wagon wheel. Who knows if they paint horses too? What? What? A butcher's cleaver. Who knows what the poor ladder did to Mahoney to deserve this? They're full of gasoline. Someone's willing to commit arson just to sweep it all under the rug. I wonder if this is Mahoney's private stash or if he's reselling bottles at premium. I think it's all flavor text. I don't think I'm missing anything else. We've gotten our goal. Can't go up there, yeah. Yeah, so a doll found on Riker Avenue, impaled on the branch of a tree. It looks rather old and shabby, but judging by the fact that it is not discolored by the weather, it has probably only been placed there for a short time. And the burnt clothes. Some burnt pieces of cloth. I think they might be the remains of cloves, but there is hardly anything left. The fire has almost completely devoured them, along with all the contents of the barrel they were in. You can still make out the color. Some are black or grey, some are blue. Really too little to say anything else. Well, I guess... Oh right, I should just continue. Is this the game telling me that I haven't found everything, or there might be some detail I've missed? I'd better have another look. I do hope I don't have to like go and start clicking everywhere. I think that was everything. I should just continue. If we really did forget something, we'll find out. We'll find out. Go away. As you make your way through the brushwood, a sudden noise catches your attention. A heavy, grating squeak that lasts no more than a second. The sound came from the house, you're sure of it. Is someone inside? Could the information you received have been off? You can feel the adrenaline pumping through your veins, and your investigative instincts kicking in. This could be the perfect chance to catch John Mahoney or one of his boys red-handed. Though it's a gamble, and one that could end with a gun pointed at your head. It's certainly a more enticing prospect than returning to the newsroom with nothing more than a stack of counterfeit license plates. You strain your ears from any other sounds, but an eerie silence shrouds the junkyard and the shack. Guided by your need to know, you cautiously approach the decaying structure. Well, we're first going to peek through the window. You circle the house in search of a window that could offer a vantage point. It might be harder to see anything, but at least you'll be safer that way. Some of the windows are obstructed by peeling shutters, and others reveal vacant rooms. In one room you catch a glimpse of a mouldy sofa and a rickety table with some trash on it, but nothing more. At last you discover a small window at the rear, its glass cracked but clear enough to afford you a glimpse inside. On the other side of the glass, you see a small room filled with piles of junk. The first thing you notice, illuminated by the only beam of light that enters the room, is a set of overalls, crumpled and discarded on the floor. Wait, that's a person. A child. Your eyes follow the streak of light as it sweeps across the wooden floor until it meets the silhouette of a child. You blink and sharpen your focus, stunned by the surreal sight you behold through the encrusted glass. Yet the image remains unaltered, the child enshrouded in the deep shadows of the shack. Your first instinct is to make sure this child is all right, but your eyes can't help but give the lie to everything you're trying to tell yourself. The child is completely naked, curled up in an unnatural position, and there is blood. Lots of blood. Your eyes go wide, and you back away for a moment. What kind of place did Ferber send you to? It was just supposed to be the hideout of a coffee, not this nightmare. While you're still grappling with the unsettling image of the child huddled in the crimson puddle, the room's door creaks open, drawing your attention to the shadowed figure stepping through the doorway. Oh, inside. Oh shit, that's not human. It's approximately the size of a man, yet any comparison to a human ends there. Its skin is pallid and wrinkled, resembling cloth soaked in water for far too long. Crinkled layers of skin piled upon one another, grotesquely dangling in small, spongy peaks. A peculiar rhythmic sound draws your attention to the creature's lower extremities, which are slender and gaunt, culminating in the hooves of a horse. In its hands, needle-like, razor-sharp claws, and where a face should be, a circular maw, bristling with fangs, glistening with viscous slime. You cannot comprehend what you see. Perhaps you are going mad, or perhaps the stress of recent times is playing tricks on you. As you continue to grapple with the unfathomable, you watch the creature lunge at its lifeless victim and begin to ravage the pitiful remains of the child with ravenous frenzy. But then the creature suddenly freezes, sniffing the air for a moment. With exasperating slowness, it turns its snout towards the window and swallows a piece of meat with a disgusting twitch of its round jaw. The creature advances with a slow, measured gait toward the window, bringing that wrinkled clot of blood and skin closer to your face. It has no eyes, and yet you can feel it staring straight at you. Your body reacts all at once, on pure instinct, while your mind is still trapped in the horror you've just witnessed. You bolt off the porch and break into a run with no intention of looking back, barely holding back a scream at the top of your lungs. It blends with the sound of shattering glass and a cry that ties the beast at your heels to no creature of the animal kingdom. Your muscles move on their own, guiding you to your parked car. You drop into the driver's seat and fumble with the key in your sweaty, trembling hands. Your vision is so blurred that it takes a couple of attempts before you manage it, each one leaving you more breathless, all the while dreading that the creature might lunge at the car. On the third, frantic try, the keys find their place and the engine roars to life, a sound so damn comforting in that moment. You wrench the car into a dangerous U-turn, the tires screaming as you picture the creature bounding after you in great leaps, straining to close the last few yards between its enormous claws and your car. You don't wait for the full scene to reveal itself. Your foot slams down on the accelerator. You can almost hear the creature's jaw snapping shut on empty air as your reliable car surges away from Riker Avenue. Continue. Only a few miles away from the house in the junkyard, your breathing gradually returns to normal. Your heart is finally slowing down, and it's only now that you realize you may well have just come close to a heart attack. You made it out alive, which is the most important thing. But you can't shake the image of what you witnessed, and probably never will. You grip the steering wheel with your bloodless hands, huffing now and then in an effort to ease the tension that still grips you. Yet it proves futile. Your shirt is soaked with sweat, and still you're racked with cold shivers, as if you were running in a fever. The first time you're able to draw a deep breath is when the rain unleashes its deluge upon the car windows with the intensity of an unseasonable summer downpour. In that moment, you glimpse the island of Manhattan in the distance, like an impressionist painting stifled by the storm. It appears so reassuring, with its lights piercing through the enveloping darkness. Every now and then, you find yourself instinctively glancing at the rearview mirror, gripped by the fear that the creature might be tailing you. You're fully aware of the irrationality of this fear, but your mind is still reeling from the shock of what you've witnessed. There's no such thing as monsters, you remind yourself, except in works of fiction, and in the minds of the superstitious and the deranged. But what you saw was no costume. It looked far too realistic. And the blood, all that blood, that too, like the child's lifeless body, seemed so damn real. You don't know if the images flickering before your eyes are the ones you truly witnessed, or if they're just the product of your troubled mind. Amidst this tumult of emotions, what haunts you most is that you did nothing for the child. Was he truly already dead? Or might there have been a chance to save him? Could you have torn him from the monster's clutches? Would it have been worth facing that creature, even to die a hero? You have no answers, and a lump forms in your throat, leaving just one thought in its wake. You left the child to the cruelest of fates. Once more. You cross the bridge leading to Manhattan Island. You can't help but admire the grandeur of the towering skyscrapers that had already greeted you from afar. The glow of the great city helps you drive off the tormenting visions of the hovel as you move into the dizzying streets of New York. There's a certain solace in that realization. There are no monsters here, only busy men, most likely fathers, eager to return to their wives and children. And thus, your thoughts circle back to the naked figure of the child. You pull over to a quiet spot on the side of the road and rest your forehead on the steering wheel. You take a few deep breaths and try to regain full control of your body. How the hell is that even possible? You're tempted to ask yourself what you did to deserve this harrowing experience, but far too many plausible answers clamor in your mind. The weight of it all seizes your throat in a suffocating hold, causing your eyes to well up with tears. You can't bear this burden on your own. You may not have an extensive network in Manhattan, but you have a handful of trusted friends. You need to confide in someone before your mind unravels, pushing you over the edge into madness. I see. Do I just move around? No, I can't move the map, so it's static. I either go to Colin or Ferber, but Ferber... sorry. Ferber is my boss, while Colin is my colleague and a friend. So I think if I were to talk this over with anyone, it would probably be Colin. Let's see, what is this? Nothing new yet, just this. Coveralls. I saw a pair of coveralls in the same room on Riker Avenue. Strange, since the rest of the junk that had accumulated there was all household items. I intend to look into it. We're going to Colin Wright. Oh, this is the police station where Colin Wright, your friend and informant, works. He would certainly listen to your story, but would he believe it? What about Ferber? Ferber, your editor-in-chief, is still in the newsroom. Talking to someone like him, so straightforward and rational, might help you make sense of what you've witnessed. No, I said I needed a friend. Select. Act 1. City of Secrets and Shadows. Night has fallen, yet Fifth Avenue is as busy as ever. You pass by the police headquarters where your informant, Colin Wright, is stationed. From the looks of it, there doesn't seem to be much going on inside. You find a nearby parking lot, lean back in your seat, and ponder your next steps. Okay, so he's not my colleague, he's just a good friend and an informant, I see. So I like this little warbling effect, I think, to give it some kind of life. Colin is not just a person who discreetly feeds you confidential information from inside the police force. He's also the best friend you've made since coming to New York. After all, you saved his life. Or at the very least, took a serious hit for him. And he hasn't forgotten that. There's trust there. And you know he'd hear your story to... and you know he'd hear your story out to the end without batting an eye. As you struggle to find the right words, you notice a police officer sticking a flyer to a lamppost. The rain temporarily subsides, and you can make out a small figure on the paper. Your heart leaps again, a dark sense of dread forcing its way through your mind. You wait until the officer has moved away before opening the door and stepping outside, your body protesting loudly from the accumulated strain. Child. You look at the flyer for a long time and finally breathe a sigh of relief. It's a report of a missing child, but the one pictured looks very small, probably 1 or 2 years old at most. It can't be the same one you saw being torn apart by the monster. He's 4 years old. Does it say Black Eyes? Police Department, City of New York. But as soon But as soon as you start reading the words printed on the paper, your eyes widen. Among the various details listed about the child on the flyer, one particular piece of information stands out. His age. 4 years old. William Gaffney. Right, I see. 4 years old. Blue eyes, light complexion and brown hair. At the time of his disappearance, around 5:30 p.m. on February 11th, 1927, which is... I've forgotten the date for a moment. He was wearing blue knickerbockers, a grey blouse, socks and black shoes. Sadly, I have no doubt he is the child from Riker Avenue. It is... Oh, that was yesterday. Okay. The photograph is plainly old, so the child would surely be bigger now. The thought settles heavily on you as you try to reconcile the features of that helpless, bloodied little body left in a pool of blood with the cheerful drawing of the child on the flyer. At the bottom of the flyer you see the family's address. At the time of his disappearance, the kid was wearing a blue suit and black trousers with no coat or hat. The only distinguishing feature mentioned is a small scar on his lip. You try to convince yourself that it's just a coincidence. After all, plenty of children go missing every day in New York. The children of illegal immigrants, kids abandoned by their own mothers, or unwitting victims of some score settling. Besides, this child was from Brooklyn, far from the dilapidated shack on Riker Avenue. Yet, despite your best efforts, you can't get rid of the nagging suspicion that this is more than just a random occurrence. You look at the entrance to the station and study it for a moment. You and Colin have been exchanging information under the table for almost a year now. And you have your rituals, your favorite place to chat, away from the prying eyes of his colleagues. But this is an emergency. You can't wait until your next meeting. Yet you also know that if his superiors found out about your little arrangement, your friend would most likely lose his job, if not worse. You also have no idea whether he's on duty tonight. Stepping inside, you're met with a wave of hot, stagnant air and a blur of uniformed bodies rushing in every direction. The room buzzes with overlapping voices, each one straining to be heard through the constant ringing of telephones. Now you have to decide what to do. Filing a complaint the regular way with the first available policeman wouldn't risk exposing your relationship with Colin. No matter how upset you are, this is still infanticide. On the other hand, you've seen something you can't digest, and Colin may be the only one who couldn't dismiss you as crazy. You could try to find him among the officers and pretend to bump into him by chance, playing it off as naturally as possible. You've never tried your hand at acting. But this is difficult. What would I do? I mean, I'd obviously sound crazy if I was like a monster. I went to a dilapidated, abandoned house, and while looking through a window, I saw the body of a child in a pool of blood being eaten by a monster. I would be laughed out of the station. So if I'm gonna do anything, I should probably try to look for Colin, but then try to play it cool. So go after Colin, because go and file a complaint. That's not gonna do anything. Like, I came here to tell Colin specifically. So if I go and file a complaint, it's not gonna get to Colin, because they're just gonna laugh me out of the room. Go after Colin. As you walk, you keep an eye on the men in uniform passing by, hoping to spot Colin. There seems to be no sign of your friend, however, and the chaos around you feels like a claustrophobic maze with no way out. Then, as if from some unknown corner of purgatory, you see your friend emerge from the crowd. Colin strides toward you, weaving past his colleagues with effortless skill, all the while keeping a steady, hard gaze fixed on you. He greets you formally, shakes your hand, and gives you a very insincere smile. "Ah, it's you. Please follow me. I will take your complaint as we agreed yesterday." He puts a hand on your shoulder to lead you to his desk, squeezing a little harder than you would have expected, making you jump. "Are you out of your mind?" He growls in a low voice so that only you can hear him in the midst of that throng. Within moments you reach your destination, a cubicle overflowing with paperwork, files, and an absurd number of notes scattered across one of the tables near the entrance of the police station. "Give me all the details." Ooh, he has a scar. The man sits at his desk, maintaining a formal tone, even though no one is paying attention. You find yourself muttering softly, not quite sure what to say. Despite all the time you spent preparing your speech, the words just don't come out. Something grips your throat and leaves you gasping for air. You finally manage to muster a few words. "I saw something terrible. I think a child was killed." Colin's eyes widen for a moment before he returns to staring at the complaint form to be filled in. The weight of what you just said hits you like a speeding car. It is as if you have just made real... It is as if you have just made real what you saw in the house on Riker Avenue. It wasn't real before, just an image burned into your mind. Now, it feels like the fire is actually burning. "So, as you said, this friend of yours refuses to return the books you lent him some time ago. I see. In fact, it amounts to theft." With this false statement, Colin rescues you from the abyss created by your words, in a tone loud enough to discourage any sharp-eared officer. On the other hand, no one cares much about skirmishes between old friends, do they? You nod, a little bewildered, while he jots down your information with the mechanical precision of someone who does it all day. "Did you park nearby?" He suddenly mumbles, so quiet you can barely hear him. You nod again, and tell him where you parked your car. "Give me 15 minutes and I'll join you." He says it almost in a whisper, before shifting back into a formal tone laced with subtle irritation, as if he were a wary officer forced to put up with yet another whiner, fed up with endless petty complaints. "Well, we will see what we can do. Goodbye." With a handshake, you walk out of the station and quickly make your way to your car. Let me take a sip. Let me look through here. Locations. Police station. New York Central Police Station on 5th Avenue, the beating heart of justice in the Big Apple. Which, to continue with that fine metaphor, would be a nest of worms slowly eating away at it, given the high level of corruption among its officers. I've never experienced it directly myself, at least so far, but these are all first-hand accounts. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You have an informant in the police force. Isn't that corruption in a way? I guess corruption means there has to be money involved. So I guess not in that way, but surely. Colin opens the door of your car and gets into the passenger seat. You couldn't help noticing how cautious he was about this simple action, almost as if he expected to be spied on. Sometimes you think he's exaggerating a bit, but maybe it just comes with the job. Without a word, he motions for you to get going. You start the car, then merge into Manhattan's evening traffic under a downpour that shows no signs of letting up. The two of you remain silent for a while. You've been in this situation before, where your friend waits until he is far enough away from his place of work to be comfortable with the conversation. You sigh, a little annoyed. You've been driving in circles for a while now, and the station is well behind you. You said you saw a child killed. Tell me everything. His eyes are full of anticipation, and you can guess why. Colin is a family man with 3 kids, so it's no surprise the news seems to hit him on a personal level. How did you think about it? One of the things his superiors often accuse him of is getting too emotionally involved in his cases. Yeah, I think I shouldn't lead with the monster. He'll think I'm crazy. Remember the junkyard on Wrecker Avenue? He nods. He knows exactly what it's about. He was the one who passed along the information about this place to begin with. I was there today. I saw a child in the shack. I don't know if he was dead or alive, but he was in a bad shape. Very bad. There was blood everywhere. God, if only I could get that scene out of my head. Colin stays silent for a long moment, watching your trembling hands on the wheel. You wouldn't know it at first glance, but he's a very tactful man, and quite empathetic too. He's shown you that many times. I can only imagine how horrific it must have been to see all that. We have John Mahoney's file, but I must admit I never thought he could be such a monster. Like I said, I know for a fact that he's out of town. He takes another long pause, pinching the bridge of his nose, as if trying to gather his thoughts on what he's just heard. I don't know. It must have been a score settling. They must have killed that little boy to get back at someone. If only we had some proof. I've got it. I found fake plates in the shed next to the house. That should be enough to arrest him. But that's not all, Colin. There's more. And now I go with the monster. I saw his body being devoured by a monster. Colin raises an eyebrow and looks at you strangely. You can't tell if he's going to blurt something out or laugh, but neither option is very encouraging for your current state of mind. Eventually, the policeman chooses the former, but in a kinder way than you would have expected. And so, in a very neutral voice, that of someone who is still deciding how to react, he asks you what you are talking about. A strange creature I had never seen before. A strange, horrible creature. It stood on 2 legs, and it had claws and fangs and hooves, and it had no eyes, and you saw it eating a child? You nod, but you know him well enough to know that he doesn't believe a word you're saying. If it were the other way around, you wouldn't believe what you're saying either. He must think you're crazy. He clenches his fist on his leg. You get the impression that if you were someone else, that fist would be in your face. So you came to the station to tell me you saw a monster. Have you been drinking? You know that it's not a real accusation, but it's enough to convey how annoyed he is. He believes he's taken a risk because of some drunken hallucination you had. Or you're crazy. Which is it? I don't expect you to believe me, but I know what I saw. He doesn't answer. Nor do you say anything for a few minutes. The silence in the car becomes almost unnerving, and the pattering of the rain on the windows and roofs seem to get louder, like a hailstorm. Colin frowns and mutters something thoughtful. William Gaffney. You say nothing, but you notice that your friend is following the same reasoning you did. You know he's still not convinced. In fact, he's not convinced at all. But he's seriously giving you the benefit of the doubt, which is what you would expect him to do. Alright. What do you say we head back? Mahoney must be still out of town. Let's see what we can find out about the truth of this story. The thought of going to Riker Avenue so soon after meeting the monster sends a chill down your spine and your stomach clenches. Your first reaction would be to snap a sharp no or ask Colin to call for reinforcements, but all you can do is nod and turn to head back to that godforsaken place. I mean, yeah, we have to go back if nothing else, so that either we can prove that I am crazy and I did just see it, something that wasn't there, or to make him believe me. Probably the right thing to do. Also, the most dangerous. On the last stretch of road, Colin advises you to turn off your headlights, just in case. And you obey. You park almost mechanically in the same spot as before, not without a certain unease. It seems as if you are retracing your own steps again, and maybe this time the monster will actually catch up to you. You shake your head as you turn off the engine and look at Colin, trying to take comfort in his presence. At least this time you're not alone, and your companion has six shots in the chamber. You both get out of the car now that the rain has finally stopped and move with extreme you both get out of the car now that the rain has finally stopped and move with extreme caution. Everything is dark around you, but the cloudy sky provides enough light for you to move between the car wrecks without stumbling. Colin looks at the dilapidated house. What a word, dilapidated. Colin looks at the dilapidated house, shrouded in darkness, and listens. You do the same, but hear nothing from inside. But you can't shake the fear that the creature is hiding somewhere. Your heart beats wildly as you approach the house. Just then, your friend pulls out a flashlight. The beam of light pierces the darkness and blinds you for a moment. You flinch and whisper to Colin under your breath, afraid someone might hear you. I didn't realize you brought that thing with you. Let's just say it stayed with me after the rounds. You wanted me to set fire to a piece of wood. I can't see a thing around here, and I'm pretty sure nobody's home. Let's go in, but stay alert. You approach the building, and he lights up the ground in front of you. Suddenly, Colin stops. Something has caught his attention. The beam of light has come to rest on some loose earth at the foot of a tree. Could be nothing. Maybe a dog buried something there, but better have a look. You shine the flashlight while he digs through the wet mound and begins to move it by handful with such practiced mechanical precision that you can't help but wonder how many times he's done this before. You don't have to wait long before he pulls out what appears to be a pair of small shoes covered in sticky mud and grass, which he cleans as best he can. Well, this is definitely bizarre. Buried shoes. A pair of children's shoes found buried in Riker Avenue. They look well cared for, maybe even new, but someone has scribbled on them with colored wax crayons. The little owner, I'm guessing. Well, what's the color? There's no color. Because I know for a fact that William Gaffney had black shoes, but I can't see the black can see the shoes here. It could be William's shoes. He stands up and wipes his hands on the underside of his uniform, then takes his flashlight back and signals for you to follow. The porch creaks slightly as you step onto it to face the entrance to the house, and at the slightest touch of the policeman's hand, the door opens in front of you. It's clean. A narrow hallway opens up before you, lit only by the flashlight. Surprisingly, the entrance is fairly clean, and the walls appear to be freshly painted in white paint. Suddenly, the old floor creaks beneath your feet, followed by Colin's muted cursing, though there are no sounds to indicate that anyone else could be listening. Colin is quite scrupulous in searching from room to room, and you stand beside him, almost clinging like a kid to his mother's skirt. As much as you already know perfectly well what you will find in those rooms, you shudder at the thought of what might lurk in the last one. The light from the flashlight brings the collapsed inner staircase into focus, and your friend lingers for a moment. You can't get through here. Maybe we can try the railing outside when we come out. You lose yourself in the torn-up steps, imagining the beast you saw a few rooms away effortlessly leaping the whole flight to the floor above. In the process, you take your eyes off your feet and stumble awkwardly over something on the floor. You hiss a curse as you bend down to pick up the object that nearly knocked you to the floor. A book. Colin. A holy Bible. Colin, who was lighting up the first room on the right, immediately turns and points his flashlight at you. The beam of light immediately reveals the simple cross stamped on the cover, and a quick glance at the first few pages confirms your suspicion. A Bible? What the hell is it doing in the middle of the hallway? What the hell are you doing? Did you see outside? This place is worse than a dump. Watch your step and follow me. Wait, Colin. There's something strange about this book. There's stains and... Colin snatches the book from your hands, then opens it and shines his flashlight on it. You both immediately notice that some of the pages are marked in several places by various pencil notes. Colin then gasps as he rubs his fingers over what appears to be a hole in the pages. Jesus Christ. Without adding anything, the detective shines his flashlight away from the Bible, stuffs the book into his uniform pocket, and continues studying the scene. You, however, resolve to ask him if you can take a look at it once you're back at the car. You've never seen him react this way before, and you're not about to let this clue vanish into a case file lost forever. You enter the narrow hallway, which is lined with just a few doors. In the room on the left, there is just a mouldy sofa and a shabby coffee table, remnants of a time when the house was actually lived in. The first room on the right, on the other hand, opens onto an empty space with just one chair in the corner. At last, you reach the final room, already cramped in itself, made worse by the clutter of junk piled one on top of another. Without saying a word, you instinctively point to the spot where you remember seeing the child's motionless body, imagining that you will find its remains. But when the light shines on the ground, there are no shreds of flesh or severed limbs to be found. In a way, you feel relieved, but you can already imagine Colin starting to rant about who made it all up. Instead, the policeman remains silent and crouches down to the ground. There's something here. Traces of blood. Do you believe me now? He sighs, not quite knowing what to say. The situation is objectively strange, but again, you put yourself in his shoes and realize that he's going to need something more concrete. The blood doesn't even look old, but the first thing that comes to mind is that this was a settling of scores. Maybe... Isn't it still enough to get Mahoney arrested? You must know something about it. Colin nods and seems quite convinced. You know what? Gaffney or not, I've been on this case far too long, so yes, I'll make the most of that blood and squeeze Mahoney as fast as I can. Otherwise, I might see my daughter married before that jerk ends up in jail. At this point, I'm having dreams about those stolen cars at night. So you leave the shack. What the? So you leave the shack, much to your relief. It's about to rain again, but your friend hasn't forgotten about the upper floor. You watch as, with an agility you didn't expect, he plants his feet on the railing and pulls himself up onto the roof. So that's what we're looking at here. I didn't realize. He points his flashlight at you and tells you to wait there. You see the beam move into the rooms you haven't been in. You approach the porch, resting a hand on one of the wooden pillars supporting the sloping roof. Only after a few moments do you realize that you're holding your breath, waiting to hear something, anything, from up there. Your mind conjures up horrifying scenarios of your friend's harrowing screams breaking the silence of the night, but you banish those visions and cling even tighter to the column. To take your mind off the anxiety, you try to think through your next moves. First, the Bible, and second, Mahoney. All you have to do is wait for the police to arrest him. After a few minutes, you hear Colin descend with a thud and approach calmly, and you breathe a sigh of relief. Nothing. I'm a bit disappointed, but then again it doesn't look like anyone's been up there for ages. The dust was so thick it felt like London in the fog. London in the fog. Everything was just grey. You get into the car and drive back to Manhattan. But the thought of the Bible continues to haunt you. You can't help but stare at it as Colin holds it in his lap, one hand resting on the cover. Then you work up the courage to ask what you've been wanting to ask for so long. Do you mind if I take it? I'd like to have a look at it, then I'll give it back to you before you make the arrest. You don't need it to nail Mahoney, do you? Pardon me. Colin snorts and turns the object back over in his hands. Trust me, forget it. I think you've gotten into something much bigger than yourself, and it was partly my fault for giving you that information, but I had no idea. I understand why you feel so involved in all this, but leave it to us. I promise I'll let you know if you find out anything about what happened on Riker Avenue. You sigh in annoyance, but you have no counter-argument. Colin has always been very accommodating with you, but you understand there are limits he isn't willing to cross. That said, you have little faith in investigative skills of his colleagues. Indeed, investigative skills of his colleagues. You're home, at last. It hardly seems real that you've made it back to your apartment after such an insane and dangerous day. Your one-bedroom apartment is far from luxurious, and you've never really felt like it belonged to you. You've lived there for a few years now, but it still feels temporary, at least until you can go back to Boston or find a new job and a new life somewhere else. You have no idea. This thought grips you every time you walk inside, but you can find no peace from this torment. You never even made much of an effort to furnish it. The only hints of you are the art books carefully arranged on the wall shelf and a small painting of you with Margaret hanging in the bedroom. That, too, does nothing but weigh on your heart. You'll never get used to how much your life has changed in so little time and how much pain it has caused you. Maybe you should just throw away that painting, which you'd made with so much love, but you simply can't. With an automatic, almost ritualistic gesture, You fill a glass of water left on the sink and pour it into the vase of daisies you keep on your desk during the day. You watch the flowers slowly wilting, their lovely white petals beginning to take on little brown spots that foretell their withering. You don't have time to lose yourself in the melancholy that grips your heart each time you come home, because as soon as you set your things down on the desk, you feel something brush against your legs, making you start. With everything that has happened, you'd almost forgotten the one comforting thing in this house. Menace, your black cat, is looking at you with his one eye as he continues to rub against your legs and meow persistently. You've been gone too long and now he's really hungry. He must not have found any mice or birds in the street today. You, on the other hand, have no appetite, so you open a can of meat and divide it in half, putting one half in the bowl and the other half on a slice of bread. It's not unusual for you to eat this way, given that time is always short and your salary mostly goes toward the rent. As you chew, you watch as Menace swallows the last bite, glances at the window you always leave half open for him, and then decides he would rather be with you than go out. He then jumps onto your lap and starts kneading, while the sound of his purring spreads through the air. I think I want to scratch his ear. You scratch his ear, and he begins to tilt his head back in response, as if inviting you to continue. You watch him lean back further and further, and you can't help smiling. If he falls out of the chair, cuddling him might get tricky, blissful look and all. There's a mix of dust, dirt, and whatever happens to be bits of green paint on your fingers. You sigh and look at him again. Look how dirty you are. Where did you get off to today? Like all male cats, Menace is a globetrotter and can't help but roam around most days, but he always comes home. He's incredibly loyal to you and never fails to show his affection. You feel truly drained after a day like this. The third-hand gramophone you managed to pick up for next to nothing languishes on the side table, staring at you as if begging you to unwind to its music, but no, you don't have the strength to do anything but collapse onto your bed. As you approach the bed, you feel the blood pounding in your temples like a drum, and you barely manage to grab the sheets and pull them over you. You probably have a fever. That wouldn't be surprising, considering what you've been through. Could all this really have been the result of an illness? What if it was a delusion? Or your head hurts too much. Before you close your eyes, you take one last look at the painting of you and Margaret, and your breathing becomes even heavier. You sink your head into the pillow and try to let go of all these thoughts and finally find some peace in sleep. Let me take a sip. The warmth of the spring sun caresses your face as the grass brushes against your fingertips, tickling you pleasantly. You don't know what's taking Margaret so long. In fact, you can't even remember what she's doing. But deep down, you're glad to have some time alone with Daisy. Then again, it might be time to go and see where she's wandered off to. You drag yourself up and wander through the garden, framed by flourishing shrubs, while the stern, heroic gazes of classic statues seem to pass silent judgment on your languid pace, as if they'd never indulged in the comfort of a quiet afternoon with loved ones. The whole place is filled with the sweet scent of roses, lilacs, and honeysuckle. Not that you're a botanical expert, but Margaret has always had a green thumb, which has served you well in painting some of your favorite landscapes. After passing the statue of a young Bacchus, pompous in his umpteenth celebration of alcohol and carnal pleasure, you find your little Daisy not far from an armless, ivy-covered Venus. She seems to be picking flowers, so you stop to watch her, not daring to disturb her moment of serenity. Then the little girl's figure is overshadowed by a vaguely human silhouette, whose presence blocks the warm rays of afternoon light. The little girl doesn't seem to notice, even though the atmosphere has suddenly become colder. You try to reach out and call for Daisy, but the muscles of your mouth twitch in vain, as if your lips had been sewn together with some strange viscous thread of an undistinguishable taste. Before your frightened eyes, a whitish glimmer slips past your vision, a large white silhouette standing between you and your little girl. In the blink of an eye, your daughter and the figure disappear into thin air. The splendid garden has fallen into ruin. Weeds have overrun every corner, devouring all they can with wild, chaotic green tendrils. A creeping reconquest that feels anything but natural. Vines twist into impossible knots, spiraling upward in tight coils that seem to reach for the edge of the sky. The only thing that matters is that Daisy has disappeared. You begin to run desperately in one direction, not even sure if it's the right one, or even if there are any directions in this meaningless place. Your heart pounding and your legs shaking as you try to figure out where your daughter has ended up in this hellscape of vegetation. Rain begins to drench your face, the sickening smell of rotting flesh reaching you as you push aside another bramble, scratching your hands painlessly to reveal a familiar hovel in the middle of the woods. Riker Avenue. You make a dash for it, but just before you reach the porch, the steps give way under your weight, and you crash to the ground with a thud. And what your eyes see, now that your face is pressed against the crumbling wooden floor, is a disjointed jumble of hoofprints stamped in the mud, as if a donkey or a horse had decided to bolt and turn itself in that spot. You feel something grab hold of your legs. You scream and gasp as tendrils begin to wrap around your body, almost sensing the intruder in you. You lift your eyes back toward the hovel, desperately searching for something to hold on to, but instead they meet a small figure, watching you just inches away. Jesus. Oh God, oh shit. William Gaffney. You have no idea how you know. The child is much older than the one you saw portrayed a few hours ago, but you know it's him. In fact, he looks almost exactly like the one you saw right there at Riker Avenue, just before his miserable end. The little one just watches as the brambles tighten around your muscles and bones, leaving you gasping. Then he leans forward, bending his knees and reaching out one arm so that his finger can just barely press against your nose. "Got you!" He says this in a cheerful tone just before a third presence appears behind him. You recognize it as the creature that devoured the child, his murderer, the whitish beast with the huge toothed mouth. You want to warn the poor child of the tragic fate that awaits him, but the creeping vegetation has already taken hold of your face, tightening around your mouth to keep you from speaking or screaming. The creature rests its hooked paws on Billy's tiny shoulders and lifts him without any effort. "Now the boogeyman has got me!" As this happens, you see the monster's figure shimmer like a reflection on water, and its features change. The claws become fingers, the rows of fangs dulls into until it looks like a set of human teeth. The hooves grow a covering of skin in which 4 clefts open, becoming the hollows of the big toe and the others. Just as his face is about to shed its hideous features and take on those of a normal human being, a large pulsating root crawls in front of your eyes, pressing with such force that your eyes nearly shoot back into your skull. Darkness takes hold of you, but sounds continue to reach your ears. Something hard, snapping with shocking ease, the sound of entrails being processed by a listless butcher, and a single sentence. "Now it's your turn to try to get him." You run out of your... once more. You run out of your apartment and down the stairs 2 at a time, risking a dramatic tumble. Unlike every other day, you didn't hear the alarm, lost as you were in those deep, tormenting dreams. Even Menace hadn't jumped onto the bed looking for food that morning, and in fact, you noticed he had already slipped out through the window. You step out into the street and are greeted by the comforting coolness of the morning and the smell of fog from the cars whizzing through the streets of Manhattan. As you get into your car and start the engine, you realize that, despite the unpleasant night, you feel much more rested. It seems like most of your sleep was peaceful, disturbed only by the scenes that are still so vivid in your mind. Yet the daylight seems to push those memories away, and somehow you now feel even more determined to make sense of the shocking events of the day before. You park not far from the headquarters of the newsroom where you work, the New York Gazette, a large, nondescript building that has become your second home. Or first, considering how much time you spend there. As soon as you walk through the door, you're greeted by the sounds you've come to know so well, part of your daily routine. The bustle of colleagues, the rustling of paper, and the incessant ticking of typewriters. The people you pass either greet you politely or simply ignore you. You don't have any issue with them, but you know what they say about you. The nobody who landed a byline in no time, practically without paying his dues. And that's because you're the editor's favorite. You hurry to Ferber's office, next to the desk of his secretary, a woman of Italian and East Asian descent, one of those blends that only America can produce. She's rather young and pretty, and since your arrival in New York, you've tried more than once to ask her out, always getting a resounding brush-off. In any case, hope dies last. "Good morning, Lily. Is Edward in the office, or did I miss him?" "You're in luck. He's about to leave right now. Another interview about the sex thing." I think that's the wrong accent. I don't think I should give her any accent, actually. Maybe I won't. "Again? This whole prudish fuss about the play has been dragging on for almost a year now. I'm surprised he hasn't had enough of it by now." "Oh, you know how he is. Defending art in all its forms from those who do not understand its true value, etc., etc. We all know that he would rather be a critic than a journalist, or an art history teacher. He's turning the paper into a daily insert of art in America and elsewhere." "Come on, don't exaggerate. I mean, yes, he's a bit obsessed, but he's always very thorough. I guess that's a virtue in our line of work. Right, I'll catch up with him." I mean, if I did before... I should just... "Oh, anyway, what are you doing tonight? I recently found a nice little place where the food's really good." "Really? And tell me, where did you find it? Riker Avenue?" At these words, you suddenly freeze as your mind fights against the memories of all those sensations that are surfacing so powerfully. The secretary notices this, perhaps because of your face, which must have turned white immediately, and your alarmed eyes. But instead of caring, she grimaces. "Oh, for fuck's sake, why are you looking at me like I'm a monster? Anyway, I have a really pressing engagement tonight, and if you want to know what it is, know that I haven't decided yet. Now get lost, Pikmin." Once inside, you find your boss in the middle of a phone call, which must have stopped him just as he was about to leave, as he already has his coat on. He looks at you for a moment and smiles, then waits for you to wait. Yes, darling, I understand. I'll get a chicken for lunch. But I really must go now. They're waiting for me. And I have to talk to Richard first. Yes, I'll give him your regards. He gestures to the chair where you sit, as you've done countless times since he first suggested you work for him as a journalist after Margaret's disappearance and your move to the big city. You don't even take off your coat, sure that your conversation will be brief. Right, so I'll see you when I get back. Usual time. Yeah, Your friend slams his hand down hard on the desk, startling you. His voice is now much louder than usual, but this does not worry you too much. You've seen scenes like this before, especially when you were having dinner at Ferber's house. I said I'll get the goddamn chicken! You don't have to repeat it at the end of every goddamn sentence, I say! What? What do you mean I forgot? That was literally once in 30 years, and you throw it in my face every single day. You know what? I'll have some fish. At least that'll give you something to really complain about. Excuse me, I have to go. Yeah, have a nice day. He hangs up violently, shakes his head, rubs his temples with his fingers, and closes his eyes as if to regain his lost composure. You watch him, trying to hold back the smile that wants to form on your own lips, because you know he doesn't appreciate having to make such a scene in public. And so, without even sitting down, he lets out a sigh and regains his usual calm tone. Trouble in paradise? Thinkst thou that I who saw the face of God and tasted the eternal joys of heaven am not tormented with 10,000 hells in being deprived of everlasting bliss? Shakespeare? Ferber raises his eyes to the ceiling and lets out a long sigh. Marlowe. But at least you didn't mistake him for scrambled wives like she did. She was so beautiful when she was young. But now she's gotten old and... damn... Never mind. I hope you've got good news for me in the stolen car business. Yes. I have what we need. In a shed next to the house I was led to, I found fake license plates. I've already called the police, but at least you'll get the exclusive you wanted. Anyway, I'm not really here for that. I'm here to ask you to give me a new case. I was thinking of the one about the child who disappeared the day before yesterday. Yeah? How come? You don't think there's any need to talk to Ferber about what you saw on Riker Avenue, or rather what you actually saw. However, if you want to drop this sleazy car affair and focus on the research you are now beginning to feel is your real mission, you will have to get everything you can from him. And surely there's already a file on the Gaffney case at the newspaper. No, I'm not going to make this a personal matter. I think I want to come across as somewhat professional. I think Mahoney might be involved in the matter. Ferber frowns and begins to rub his chin, focusing all his attention on you with that inquisitive look you sometimes find so damn intimidating. This time, however, you have clearly caught his attention, and he wants to know the details. I found what was left of some children's clothes, as if someone wanted to get rid of the evidence. According to my source, they matched those of William Gaffney. Of course, it could just be a coincidence, but the timing lines up strangely. But why would a stolen car fence kidnap a child? You let out a deep sigh. You know that you are about to lie to one of your best friends, but you are fairly certain that such a rational person would find it hard to believe what you saw in that dilapidated house. That said, you have no intention of hiding the truth from him any longer than is absolutely necessary. My contact thinks it might be a settling of scores. We found traces of blood in the house. That doesn't mean... No, I see what you mean. What appeared to be a tragic but essentially minor affair may have a much darker and more dramatic twist than any currently suspects. Suspects? Am I wrong? No, you are not wrong, and I couldn't have said it better myself. This is why I'm asking you to drop the car business and concentrate on the child's disappearance. Someone else can always write the article, and as far as I'm concerned, they can take credit for it. I really don't care. Do you already have someone on the Gaffney case? Not yet. I wrote a little article on the subject myself last night, using what little information I could gather. Second-hand, I admit. I have all the more experienced men on the bigger things, like the Shanghai landing, so this has taken a bit of a backseat. Anyway, I was just thinking of handing it over to one of the new guys. My fault, I couldn't have imagined that... Anyway, it's fine. As he speaks, Ferber opens a desk drawer and pulls out a folder on which he has written, in his perfect handwriting, Gaffney case. He looks it over for a moment to make sure everything is there, then hands it to you. Inside, you glimpse the flyer you saw taped to that lamppost last night. However unimportant he claims it is, Ferber has been as meticulous as ever in gathering everything about the affair, and this was just for a blurb. You have my blessing to pursue this matter, but you must write the article today. Well, we are already too far behind. So if I were you, I'd talk to the people involved first. Just be careful, as I understand the Gaffney house is being staked out by the police to prevent onlookers from entering. What are the police saying? Inspector Sullivan, you mean? Well, he says Gaffney may have wandered off on his own, but I don't know how much sense that version of events makes. There's this other child, William Beaton, who says that the bogeyman took him away. The inspector, though, doesn't seem inclined to pay attention to the boy's testimony. I suppose because it comes from a child. You nod, pick up the folder, and rise from your chair. Maybe you should thank him, but you know pleasantries are often pointless with Ferber. He loves good manners, but he values results far more. So you simply smile and give a nod. You open the door and turn around one last time to see him picking up some papers from his desk before leaving. Oh, Edward, remind me the chicken? You dart out of the office with a cat-like spring as you hear a copy of yesterday's paper smack against the glass of the door. Lily flinches for a moment, then looks at you and rolls her eyes before going back to her typing while you walk off smiling. Okay, a few more things. Okay, so locations. The New York Gazette, the headquarters of one of New York's most prestigious newspapers. A very anonymous building full of scoop-hungry journalists, always ready to talk behind your back and steal a good story out from under you. I mean, who wouldn't want to call a place like this home? Menez. This one-eyed cat given to me by a neighbor as soon as I arrived in New York has been my faithful companion for the past few years. His presence makes life in my apartment much more bearable, and sometimes I feel that he takes care of me as much as I take care of him. And then there's Liliana Kokumi. Ferber's secretary is a rather energetic and very beautiful girl, but with a terrible temper. I know that her mother is from Florence, Italy, and was married to a Japanese businessman who abandoned her when Lily was a child. Perhaps this is why she is so impossible to deal with and always finds fault with everyone. No wonder she has been nicknamed Sour Lily around the newsroom, but better not let her know. Oh, oops, continue. Oops. The entrance to the Gaffney apartment building is swarming with people. Sure, it's not as if Greta Garbo had suddenly turned up, but there's still a good-sized crowd. Some are just there to gawk. Your colleagues are there trying to land an interview with the boy's parents. And you know they would do anything to get into that house and pester those poor people with questions. Luckily, there's a policeman on guard at the entrance of the house. He seems quite young. Let's see, let's do the Gaffney house. The Gaffney's apartment is in a handsome 3-story red brick building at 99 15th Street in Brooklyn. Not a prize-winning example of contemporary architecture, but better than Riker Avenue. You step forward to get a better look at the situation, but the crowd is really dense. You estimate there are nearly 30 people, and just getting a little closer proves difficult. A large man, probably working on a canal, shoves you aside to make more room. An old fellow with a grey moustache stumbles clumsily into you, and a woman looking for some juicy gossip yells at you in language you don't recognize when you accidentally bump into her. The first thing that comes to mind is that you could get a sense of the situation by listening to what the people around you are saying. A lot of your colleagues do that. They gather random information and then stitch it together to write an attention-grabbing piece, a practice Ferber has strictly forbidden all his staff to engage in. Everyone is talking about the Gaffney affair, which seems inevitable, but something catches your attention. It seems that last night the ambulance stopped in front of the building and a woman was taken away. So you approach a man who is talking about it, perhaps one of the neighbors. "Hello, sir. I heard you talking about an ambulance. Can you tell me what happened?" "Well, I don't know much about it, but last night we saw Miss Beaton being put on a stretcher and taken away in an ambulance. Who knows what happened to her, poor thing. Maybe it was the fright over what her son risked, the one who was playing with the Gaffney boy when they took him. Seems the little one keeps saying it was the boogeyman who's carried him off. A mother can't take things like that." "Do you have any idea where she was admitted?" "Her? I think Prospect Heights Hospital. It's the closest. It was lucky the husband was at home. The guy is always working. If it had happened when he was at the office. Don't get me wrong, they're good people." You listen to him for a while longer as he tells you a little personal anecdote vaguely related to the Beaton family. What really matters to you is the fact that their son was in the company of William Gaffney when he was kidnapped, as your editor-in-chief mentioned. You make a mental note to stop by the hospital if you can find the time. It could be useful for your research. Okay, so I should probably not try to interfere with the young officer. I should probably look for someone to help you get to the window. You approach what is clearly another journalist, judging by the camera around his neck, and now in his hands, intent on capturing the red brick building. He has dark circles under his eyes and seems quite worn out. He's probably spent the whole night here waiting for something of some relevance to happen. A devotion to his work that borders on fanaticism. The perfect subject. "Good morning, colleague. I'm Richard Upton Pickman of the New York Gazette. Is there any chance I can interview the Gaffneys?" He startled for a moment, sizing you up from head to toe, and scratches the back of his head uncertainly, as if you'd handed him a tricky geometry problem. He blinks his sleepy eyes and shakes his head dejectedly, without a word. He doesn't seem to want to get too familiar with you, and now that you think about it, that makes sense. Maybe he's afraid you might pry some valuable information out of him. And it makes you smile, despite everything. You imagine that if you want him to be more cooperative, you will have to be the one to give him information. After all, he seems so hungry for news that anything, if well presented, could prove appetizing. So what do you do? Give him a bit of low-value information from Ferber's file, relying on your neck for talking your way around things. Or make up some fake but plausible news, so that it's difficult to expose but interesting enough. I think the first. I was interested in interviewing them to follow up on the possibility of a kidnapping, despite what the police are saying. He looks at you even more puzzled, but you can see a glimmer of curiosity in his eyes. Those few years in New York have taught you a lot about journalists. You know when they're hungry for news, like snakes poised to strike. I mean, the Gaffneys have said they have no enemies, and I can believe that. But a kidnapper can always demand a ransom, can't he? But they claim they don't have any money, and, well, they don't exactly live in a mansion. I know that the father is an ordinary worker, a driver if I remember correctly, and the mother looks after the house and the children. So let's just say they're not exactly rolling in money. Are you saying they don't believe their version of the events? Do you think they might be hiding something? He sounds genuinely curious, and part of you can't help but feel guilty for doubting these poor people. But you have to talk to them, so you have no time for scruples. His reaction is disappointingly lukewarm, and with so little concrete information to satisfy his questions, all you can do is shrug. I don't know. It wouldn't be the first time someone made up a phony story just to get attention. The kind of people who waste our profession's time, I would say. Well, that may be so, but your opinions are as valid as mine, so we're just making assumptions. Let's hope they decide to let us through. He makes his way forward through the crowd, trying to get closer to the entrance for when something happens, you imagine. You stand there and watch as he shoulders his way out of sight, driven only by his dedication to his job. Or perhaps his paycheck. Well, it's worth a try, I guess. Approach the young officer to convince him to let you past. You push through the crowd to get to the entrance of the building. Again, you're pushed back and forth, collecting a number of curses, to which you pay little attention. You finally reach the policeman at the entrance, crisp uniform, steady gaze, eyes fixed on the few unruly intruders, testing the boundaries of the place he's meant to protect. You walk up the steps and he gives you a dirty look. Clearly, no one has dared to come so close to him since he's been there. You can already see him wondering if you're a threat to his authority, and it can only make you smile. Now that you look at him more closely, he is little more than a recruit. One of those young policemen who still truly believe in their mission. Some, like Colin, stay that way all their lives, but they're a minority. Which is why it could be hard to get in. Morning, officer. Do you live here? Wait, he's young. Do you live here? No. Then leave. He speaks too loudly, drawing... Oh, loudly, whatever. He speaks a little too loudly, drawing unwanted attention. Only then do the people nearby seem to notice you talking directly to the officer, and they start to grumble. You really need to wrap this up quickly. Nothing worse than a reporter making headlines for getting shoved around or cuffed by a kid with a chip on his shoulder. I am... Oh, wow. Oh, man. There's no just talking. But, I mean, I wasn't gonna get in without talking anyway. Like, being a little bit of a liar. But what... I shouldn't bribe him, because he is fresh from the academy. He's really young, he has a lot of belief in his job. So I think he would straight up just handcuff me if I tried to do that. Pretend to be Miss Gaffney's brother is maybe not a good idea, especially considering he might then he wouldn't go in, but he would let me in, but he might know that there is no brother. Like, that's some information. Starting a fight to create chaos, would it be with the policeman? I don't think that's a good idea. I think the last one is the most viable, but I would have to show identification, right? Oh, none of these are good unless I can, like, talk my way out. None of these are good. Well, hold on. If he asks for identification, I can just claim that I've lost it, right? or that I forgot it, or that it's still in my car. Right? Shit. Sorry, it's still in my car, but you know, I'll just be a second. Yeah, I'll do this. A long moment passes as your brain works frantically to process the whole situation you find yourself in. You know very well that if the bizarre ID that has just occurred to you were to be revealed, you could easily end up in jail for quite some time. Unfortunately, the other IDs you have are almost certainly doomed to failure. So if you're going to risk it all, you might as well do it in grand style. You'll have to bank on the inexperience of the rude officer. Oh yeah, the inexperience is also true. He's not experienced, so... You make your face dead serious, hoping it will have some effect on the man standing in front of you. He's a little taken aback, noticing an authoritative bearing you didn't have before. You, on the other hand, don't say a word, but lean towards him very stiffly, as if to give him the implicit command to do the same, to whisper something that the others shouldn't hear. Rest assured, officer, I'm a colleague. I'm here to look into the missing child case. His eyes go wild, then he smiles sardonically. Of course, colleague. And tell me, what department do you belong to? Hold on. Well, if I'm a... Hold on. Police station. It would just... Fifth Avenue. Can I say that? No department. Inspector Sullivan has asked for assistance in questioning the Gaffneys more thoroughly. No offense. He believes the couple's son has been kidnapped, and indeed, thanks to some parallel investigations, we are almost certain of it. You're really telling some whoppers, but you're trying to keep it believable, using what Ferbert just told you. As for the rest, you find yourself drawing on fond memories of all the excuses you used to give the police when they caught you selling paintings on the street, long before Daisy was born, and before you bought your beloved little workshop. You had quite a silver tongue back then, and you hope it hasn't gotten too rusty. The boy is about to open his mouth, but you quietly raise your hand to stop any possible protest. I am well aware of what the inspector told the reporters, but you surely you understand that if we had come right out and said William Gaffney had been kidnapped, there would have been panic. There would have been a panic. A manhunt would have started at the most sensitive time of the investigation, and it would have driven the parents to despair. He could not do otherwise, but what he thinks is quite different. You realize you're talking about Sullivan as if he were some kind of inscrutable, divine being, and maybe that's going too far. The recruit also seems rather taken aback, and you wonder if he understands a word of what you're saying. Again, he tries to speak, but again you cut him off, pressing on, even though you can't think of much else to say to keep this shaky house of cards standing. I'm undercover to avoid attracting attention. We're afraid that the kidnappers are keeping an eye on the area. It wouldn't be the first time, so if you would, please let me through. You hesitate for a moment, but he's still staring at you with his mouth half open, so you press on and bring it home. You need only say that I am a resident of the building and that there has been a misunderstanding. You pull yourself up and look at the cop, frozen in his pose. You, too, are motionless, literally sweating in anticipation of whether you will spend the next few hours in the Gaffney house or at the station. You would prefer the former, but your brain is screaming that you're an idiot and that it will surely be the latter. Meanwhile, the anticipation is killing you, and you hope the drops you feel forming on your head aren't too noticeable. He recovers after a few seconds, but his stunned expression doesn't change. Then he manages to stammer something out. The BOI? Are you from the Bureau of Investigation? You're getting a bit panicky, you admit. That could mean anything or nothing, so the best thing to do in such cases, you think, is to neither confirm nor deny. So your answer is just a very strange smile and two hands open in front of you. Maybe a little trembling, as if to say, it's all so obvious. At least, when they arrest you, they can't accuse you of pretending to be a federal agent. All the better for a lorry you can't afford. The officer looks around excitedly, barely containing what appears to be elation. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I never... The POI is here for real. You are a... You interrupt him before he can blow it with that excited tone of voice of his. Inside, however, you breathe a sigh of relief as you realize that not only has your lie taken root, but you are standing in front of a genuine fan of the federal agents. You even imagine that for a guy like him, at the bottom of the ladder, working for the Bureau might be an ideal to aspire to. What is your name? Officer Franz Hakakam, sir, and I would like to add that it is an honor to meet you. If there is anything I can do to help with the investigation, just ask. I am at your complete disposal. Forget about climbing the ladder. This kid is a true believer. At ease, Officer Hakam... Officer. Actually, it would be enough if you did what I suggested earlier. That's all. Oh, and as for the badge... You're already thinking about how you're going to explain that you don't have the certificate proving that you're a member of the Department of Justice. But the officer doesn't seem to mind. He opens the front door of the building with great ceremony, and once again speaks too loudly, this time deliberately, making sure the onlookers gathered outside can hear. Oh, forgive me, Mr. Capone. I didn't realize you were a resident. A terribly unfortunate choice of surname, but at least you're in, and you can breathe the longest sigh of relief of your life. It worked! It actually worked. I wonder if all the other choices also have a way of working, but I felt like those were harder to sell. This young man of German descent is a strange combination of fanatical idealism and clumsiness, held together by a not too sharp intelligence. Nevertheless, he is very dutiful, which is a great quality these days, especially in the police. I have managed to get him to believe that I am an undercover federal agent investigating the Gaffney case, and he seems very fascinated by it. Okay, let me take a sip. You walk down the hallway, checking your folder for the Gaffney's apartment number, and you see that Ferber was more meticulous than he let on. As usual. After a minute, you find yourself knocking on one of the doors in the building, taking a deep breath to try and shake off the tension from the adventure you just experienced. Maybe you should put a little less passion into what you do, or Ferber might think you really enjoy being a journalist. The reality is, all you care about is finding out what happened to William Gaffney. And now comes the moment of truth. A visibly drained man, probably only a little older than you, opens the door. The first thing you notice is his very prominent nose, the kind people make jokes about. But the sad eyes of Mr. Gaffney, as you assume this man to be, quickly strip away any urge to lighten the mood. His dejected face carries all the pain a father can feel over a missing child. You feel a pang in your heart, seeing yourself so clearly in him. When he asks you who you are, you hesitate for a moment. Good morning. My name is Richard Upton Pickman, and I'm a journalist with the New York Gazette. I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm here to ask if you would be willing to answer a few questions. The man sighs. He doesn't seem annoyed, only exhausted, as if he's gone through this a million times in the last few days, and you can well imagine it. Who knows how many other journalists, most likely the same ones who are still besieging the building, have pestered him for the same reason. Okay. I do have information about William's disappearance. This sounds insane. Like, I don't know what really happened to your son. Like, there's no proof. I have nothing to prove. Like, am I gonna say to the father of the child, like, I saw your son being eaten by a monster? He's gonna kick me out. He's gonna think I'm insane and also, like, fucking with him. That's not gonna work. I have information about William's disappearance now. That I could spin that to be true. I could even, because I'm not with the police. I did a I did a separate investigation not connected to the police. On the Mahoney case, where I saw something suspicious. Do I have the shoes with me? I don't know if I have them. I do have the doll, so I could check whether the doll was his. Maybe that's... So, I could say that I found things. I think I saw traces of your son. This is not quite as good. I'm working with the police and I'm trying to figure out the truth. This is connecting myself to the police when I'm not really doing that. I want to lie as little as possible, and I want to give him some breadcrumbs to give him like a reason to talk to me. And this is just begging, so I'm gonna go with this. His expression becomes more relaxed, but he closes his eyes and breathes deeply. You have a bad feeling as if he's preparing an excuse to get rid of you. But you haven't lied. Given the information you've shared with Colin, you've helped the police with their investigation in a way. He seems to think otherwise, though. Listen, I don't want to be rude, but a lot of people have told me this. Almost all the journalists who were here yesterday. And to be honest, I never thought it was true. The police have told us to be careful who says these things. Now, excuse me, I have to go out. I'm not lying, Mr. Gaffney. I can't prove it officially, but the fact that the guard let me in should be enough to confirm the sincerity of my words. He thinks about it for a moment, but seems to slowly convince himself. In fact, what you said is true. No one without authorization could enter the building. And besides, he doesn't need to know how you really got there. You'll have to tread carefully and hope he doesn't try to confirm with the police officer at the entrance. Edmund? Who is it? Pardon me. A woman's voice, undoubtedly that of his wife, comes from inside. The husband moves slightly, allowing you to see part of the apartment. You have to squint to see through the darkness that surrounds it, as the heavy curtains are drawn to cover the windows, preventing the morning light from reaching the cramped place. The air is still hot and stale, hitting you with both a light and heavy caress at the same time. It's almost as if time has stood still here. The perfect subject for a munch painting, you think to yourself. Miss Gaffney sits at the table, staring at you anxiously through her fake glasses, while two children play with some cloth and wooden toys on the floor, more or less ignoring your conversation. Perhaps they've seen so many strangers stopping by lately that they don't pay attention to anyone who knocks on their door. Well, my first thing that I should look for, because I have a toy. I have a children's toy, right? I should check whether this toy and the toys they are playing with look similar. If they look like they were made by the same person or like bought from the same place or have the same characteristics or maybe even be the same, like they bought two of the same, that could be like, I could go like, do you recognize this doll by any chance? Do you recognize these shoes? A journalist was here on behalf of the police. He wants to ask us some few questions. Please come in. Don't stand at the door. Sergeant Joseph sent you. We're both at your disposal. Yes, but please, let's make this quick. I wanted to look for Billy with some co-workers. The information we gave the police hasn't changed. Don't worry, Mr. Gaffney. I'll be brief. I don't want to bother you with too many questions, believe me. I'm here just to help you understand what happened. You are led to the only table in the room, which doubles as a kitchen. The apartment isn't much different in size from yours, but with an extra room, and you find yourself thinking that the children probably all sleep in a single bedroom. Let's check this. Edmund and Elizabeth Gaffney. William Gaffney's parents seem like good people. He, an honest and tireless worker. She, a housewife, always busy with children and housework. It seems really strange that someone would target them and kidnap their middle child. She asks if you want anything, but you smile and shake your head. Her husband stands next to her, then gestures to her older daughter to go play with her younger brother in the other room. You're surprised that no words are needed, but you imagine it's a script that's been used several times in the last few days, if only to spare the children their parents' misery when they talk about what's happened to Billy. The atmosphere is tense. The only sound is the crackling of wood in the stove. You take out your notebook and look at them with determination, as if a part of you wanted to comfort them, even though you know there is no hope for their son. From what I've been told, your Billy disappeared at about 5:30 p.m. on Friday. He was wearing a grey blouse, blue trousers and black shoes, and no coat or hat. I'm sorry to ask so directly, but had he ever run away from home before? Oh, no, Billy never does anything like that. He is the sweetest and most obedient of our children, believe me. That's why we can't understand why he went out alone. At those words, you nod and continue with the questions. Oh. Where were you at the time? What is this? I was here with Irene and Andrew, our other two children. I don't remember what I was doing. Maybe mending some linens. Edmund was still at work. He comes home quite late these days. Would you mind walking me through what happened? Yes, all right. Like I said, I was in the house and Billy was playing on the stairs with the other kids. I didn't hear anything strange. In fact, I don't even know exactly where they were. I think upstairs, because I don't think I heard them down here. I called them in for a snack around 4 o'clock and given them some crackers, but they went right back to playing. I already know this. Like, I already know it's the beaten kid. You mean the one on top of the... Wait, what? Okay. Do you mean the one on the top floor of the building? Do I get to ask both or one? Should I... Okay, well, I shouldn't bother them with weird questions. But with the other kids... Kids? There may be more than one then. Do you mean the one on the top floor of the building? Okay, well this is interesting. So I think upstairs, because I don't think I heard them down here. On the stairs with the other. Do you mean the one on the top floor of the building? They usually play on all the landings, but they know that's when Andrew takes his nap, so they shouldn't make any noise. So they go upstairs. So is it true what little Beaton says, that they were on the roof? Of course not. They can't reach the skylight ladder, and they're too small to pull it down. They could never have done it themselves. I don't mean to be rude, but I wouldn't put too much faith in what the Beaton boy says. Oh wait, that's the father, sorry. Of course not. They can't reach the skylight ladder, and they're too small to pull it down. They could never have done it themselves. I don't mean to be rude, but I wouldn't put too much faith in what the Beaton boy says. He often uses the wrong words, like all 3-year-olds. I know already how he was dressed, so I'm not gonna do that. This is really interesting. This is also like, this is speculation. Like, surely it might be interesting for a journalist to ask this, but it's just speculation on behalf of the parents. I don't think it's certainly delicious, but I think this is the more interesting one considering what I currently have. Hold on, let me check this real quick. Locations. Gaffney House roof. The roof of the apartment building where the Gaffneys live seemed like a good place to investigate. After all, it is plausible that the Riker Avenue creature used some kind of access from here to enter the apartment. I doubt it rang the doorbell. Pardon me. Did he have any toys with him when he went missing? Oh, God, no. I don't think so. All his stuff is here. It doesn't look like he took anything. Also, because, like I said, he was upstairs, so maybe he was playing with the other Billy stuff. Oh, maybe the toy I have is not his, but Billy's toy. So showing this to them wouldn't really give them a recognition. Okay, interesting. Yes, they generally didn't mix toys. We even asked William, well, Mr. Beaton, if he found anything of our sons in his house, but he hadn't. Couldn't he have taken something from his siblings that wasn't immediately obvious? Maybe a doll? No, otherwise Irene would have noticed. Don't take this the wrong way, Mr. Pickman, but our children don't have that many toys. They would notice if one went missing. Andrew has a cloth ball and a little wooden horse. You know, he's little. Billy had a toy train and some toy soldiers, but I think that's it. Our daughter has 3 dolls, but they're all in their place. Besides, Billy knew how possessive of her dolls Irene was. I also told him not to touch her sister's toys, because one time he took her little molds and the poor thing wouldn't stop crying. Yes, it's true. Poor baby, he felt so guilty. This is just beaten. I shouldn't ask them about the boogeyman, I think. Because we already... he says don't put too much stock in what Beaton says. I should ask Beaton himself. Okay, well, I guess I should go for the salacious information. Where do you think he might have gone? I don't know. He never went out alone. And he's afraid of the dark, so he'd never go out on the street at that hour. Did he have any places he particularly liked? Oh, God, I don't know. He likes construction sites. Every time we pass by the one nearby, he makes me stop and wait for a while because he wants to watch the cranes. Every now and then a worker would stop and chat with us while we were standing there. Matter of fact, I'd recently started taking a different route. In the summer, it's one thing, but now it's cold. We couldn't stand there all day. Could he get there on his own? Interesting. Oh, I'll check that in a second. Yes, he's a clever boy, but I think if they'd seen him, we would know by now. After all, a lot of people are looking for him all over the neighborhood, and the police are searching every building. I told you, Edmund, if he really did get out, he's probably trapped somewhere, in a factory or a warehouse, and now he might still be there in the cold and... Darling, calm down. They had everything opened up, I told you. Right. Is there anything else you can think of? Perhaps someone you met or visited recently who may have interacted with your child? Oh, he's always very trusting of strangers, that's for sure. I'm worried about that too, but I can't think of anyone. Well, there's this weird guy who hangs around here sometimes. Weird guy? Who are you talking about? It just occurred to me. Perhaps I should tell the police. There is a man, I think he's an outsider because nobody in the neighborhood knows him well, who's been wandering around here since last summer. Do you know his name? Did he give you any reason to be suspicious? Well, I don't know his name. I think he lives in a shack near here, on 16th Street by the canal. He's always talking and playing with the kids. He doesn't seem quite right, to be honest. But he's never done anything strange, as far as we know. Although I've never let Billy near him. Besides, I don't leave him alone in the street. He's too young. Oh shit! Suddenly, there is a knock on the door. You freeze, fearing that someone from the building may have noticed you while you were talking to Mr. Gaffney at the door and alerted the police. A wave of panic grips your stomach. You quickly think of ways to get out of the situation, but all the windows are closed and there are no other exits. Besides, jumping out of the windows, smashing the glass and running through the streets of Brooklyn bruised and bleeding wouldn't do much for your credibility with the Gaffneys. On second thought, you're not even sure you'd survive the fall or even manage to break the glass in the first place. You get up, prepared to face what could be a very bad situation with nothing but your words to save you. Mr. Gaffney calmly goes to open the door, and you only realize you'd been holding your breath when you see that it's a couple of ordinary people dressed as dock workers, at which point you let out a long, silent sigh, hoping that the woman behind you didn't notice your unnatural tension. It seems these men were waiting for the father so they could get started on the search for the child, but since he didn't show up, they came to see why Mr. Gaffney turns to you and opens his arms with a certain dismay. Wait, I read that, but I didn't read that. It seems these men were waiting for the father so they could get... Oh, right, of course. I'm sorry, Mr. Pigman, but I have to go look for Billy. Elizabeth, do you want to continue? Actually, Mass is starting soon, and I still have to prepare the children. Mr. Pigman, would you mind if... You'd almost forgotten it was Sunday. You don't know if the Gaffneys are particularly religious, but you understand that a woman is certainly clinging to anything in order to find her little one, and you've had painful first-hand experience of how the hope offered by faith can become a dangerous thing, harmful to the mind, but you decide to keep any comment on the matter to yourself. Don't worry, ma'am. I'd say we've had a nice chat already. Actually, I'm sorry for keeping you both for so long. You greet the children, while Elizabeth encourages them to do the same, with a sweetness that is truly one of a kind. Irene, the eldest, does it immediately and decisively, while the youngest, Andrew, looks around, sucking his thumb. But then, you think he's not even a year old, and you can't expect too much. You remember that Daisy was already greeting and saying a few words at that age, but that girl was really smart beyond her years. I promise that if I find anything, I will let you know as soon as possible. You can count on that. Do you mind if I come down with you, Mr. Gaffney? So you join the group to leave the building, with the intention of following the man to the first convenient corner and then slipping away. However, you can't help but notice the officer on guard, who gives you such a knowing look that if he had winked at you, it would have been much less suspicious. Before you can go down the stairs outside, he approaches you and you find yourself with no choice but to stop. You're not worried about the fact that he may have caught you, but rather that his intrusive behavior may arouse suspicions. Take, for example, the officer approaching from across the street, likely here to switch shifts with his partner. Sir, if I did a good job and it's not too much trouble for you, please mention my name to the BOI. I've always dreamed of joining them. You're the best, really. You give him a forced smile, and the words that come out of your mouth are a whisper that you hope will be audible despite all the noise the crowd around you is making. I'll see what I can do, officer. But remember, don't tell anyone. Do we understand each other? He nods vigorously and stands at attention, letting you pass and allowing you to slip away. Oh! Wow! That's got me a lot of information. Wow, 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 wow. Oh! Okay, what time is it? What time is it? I do have a limited time. It is 11:15. I think now is probably the time to stop. Wait, hold on. Let me do this first. Right. Check on the goannas. Goannas? I think check on the goannas. An old tool shed on the banks of the Gowanus has now been converted into an apartment with some success. There aren't many of these around. I wonder how much warmth that sheet metal can hold in the dead of winter. So, closing thoughts. I like the game so far. I think if I am to play myself believing what I saw, I shouldn't really be suspecting that the suspicious guy from the old shack. I think that's in general just like a red herring in the first place. But he may have some information. Let's see. The Gowanus hut, Gaffney's roof, construction site, and Prospect Heights Hospital. I should go to the roof first, I think. But that's it for now. Does it save automatically? I think it does. Does it? Well, it will tell me, right? Yes. It better save. Yeah, continue. Okay. That was the first episode, I suppose. Definitely gonna play this more. This is really interesting. I really like the vibe so far, and I have every reason to believe that the art is also like not AI generated. So I feel confident in saying that I like the art. So that's cool. All right. Well, I'll see you in the next one. And bye bye. Speedy signing off.